to Retrospective Consensus, where I and someone else, or someone else and someone else, talk about a movie that is fairly well known either for being like bad or really good. And we're filming this at Andreas' place. We were just watching some movies and I decided I'll bring Dungeons and Dragons and show it to Martin, which is the movie we're going to talk about.
Dungeons and Dragons is about an evil wizard who wishes to control red dragons to take over the empire or whatever, and in his way stands our protagonists, two incompetent thieves. One terrible mage and a homeless dwarf.
This movie is fairly known for just being one of the worst movies ever made.
I agree.
Come on, it's not
Wholeheartedly agree.
It's not that bad.
Wholeheartedly.
I wouldn't say it is good, but it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
It is.
Well, let's go through your notes then. I can start with some of mine. Because the most important thing for a movie is characters. I want to start off with the first real character we see, and that is Profion, played by Jeremy Irons. And I think he does a good job. Being absolutely hammy, yes, indeed.
I could use every ounce of your rage.
There isn't a scene where he isn't chewing the scenery, and even his plan is pure ham. He's going to take over a bunch of dragons to storm a kingdom after destabilizing the magical government enough.
No. Robbing the Empress of her power?
Yeah, but he's gonna do that by destabilizing the magical kingdom enough so that she decides to give in and start attacking the other council members with dragons. And why does he do this? Because she wants equality between non-mages and mages?
Yeah.
I'll get to that later. But I love that. I love just how absolutely ham he is in this movie.
Yeah, there's also a really good point about him being ham, because behind the scenes there's a scene where he's going ham, he's hamming it up, and as soon as the director says cut, he goes back to normal.
It looks like he hates being in the movie.
Yeah.
Which is probably why the making of the Dungeons and Dragons movie isn't about interviewing any actors about their performance or anything. It's all about the effects.
Yeah.
There's two sections of the DVD menu that are about effects. It's one that goes breaking down effects, which is probably what that should have been, but no, it's just showing you the early versions of the effects, which I highly recommend watching because it's really funny.
You get some weird puppet-looking dragon.
Zooming in on it, and a version of Jeremy Irons that is T-posing.
You are mine now.
It sort of looks like Simon Cowell at times.
Yeah, it does.
I guess he's the standardized being of human.
Profion, pretty good.
Ham central. He's the whole damn pig.
This movie has scenery, but he chews all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking all of it. And we move on to the next character, the dwarf, named, as you were looking up IMDb while watching this because you were so bored.
Yep.
His name is Elwood Gutworthy.
Solid dwarf name.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's also a great character.
I mean, there is this one part where he tells the story about how an orc was going to stab him when he was pinned down with like a giant spear, so he caught it in his teeth.
He ate it. He ate the spear.
When they talked about the characters, it was like, oh yeah, this guy, he needs to be gross and disgusting because he's a mercenary dwarf who lives in trash. And I'm like, dude.
They're not nice to him.
Yeah. He does have a really annoying yell when his helmet is shot off. And I think it would have been better if he just went into a rage instead of showing him be kind of screamy about it.
But there's also a lot of different directions they could have gone with, but you know, that's one they chose. I don't know if it's a good direction, but it's one.
Though, one of the best characters is the Thieves Guild Master.
Oh fuck yeah, he's so snarky, he's so elegant. Yeah.
He is the villain you should aspire to be.
That should have been the main villain. But the director is fucking stupid. This is the first time I'm saying this. I'm gonna say this multiple times. Because he is a fucking idiot. Twice.
You're going to use that he is an idiot more than the main sorceress uses magic in this movie, aren't you?
Yep. That brings us to the next point. The fucking mage, or what the fuck was her name again? I'm sorry. I can't bother
Marina.
learn these names. She's a mage. And behind the scenes they were like, oh, how do we put all these magic spells into the movie? And she uses 5 spells. And
Aren't
like
2 of them like the same?
3 of them. Because you have the shock, which she uses multiple times. The portal, which she uses multiple times. Actually, no, it's only 2.
No, she uses rope too.
Yeah, but she doesn't use that multiple times.
Not multiple times, but what I'm saying is she uses shock twice, teleportation twice, and rope.
And rope. Which has a strange binding effect because they have to follow her.
Yeah, you see the problem with this movie when it comes to characters, there are more problems to go into.
Because the director is a fucking idiot.
Yeah, the problem is that the characters that are fun to follow get very little screen time.
Yeah.
And you end up mostly following the main cast, which includes Marina, Ridley, and Snails. And they're not as fun to follow, although I will defend Snails a little bit when we get to him. We start off with just Marina because I hate her. In the beginning, she's just like, you are proof that non-mages are scum. Which kind of makes it weird that she's helping the Empress who wants to stop the mage supremacy.
Yeah.
And also, if she had told the characters who were being suppressed by mages that she wants to stop the mage supremacy, maybe they would have been a little bit easier to convince to join your side in stopping everything. But no, they decided, let's have her just be a dick. I find it so annoying that she only uses 5 spells, but I can't expect much when she can't even stock books correctly in the library. How can she act so superior when she puts a book about dragons in the alchemy section?
You know the expression dumb as a doorknob? She's the whole fucking door.
Ridley is kind of blank canvas, but he's also an asshole. And you never really get a justification for, why does he hate mages other than the fact that, they suppress them. So, I'm giving it a little bit of a pass on that.
Yeah.
But the main reason is that they cut out the scene where he explains that his father went to the mage college, but because he didn't pass, they erased all of his memory. They erased the entire scene inside the scroll where they're discussing what is happening and what they should do. Why did they cut it?
Because the fucking director is a fucking idiot.
They couldn't afford the CGI that they wanted in there, and they had a fine effect. It looked just fine. We'll get into the effects later, but sufficient to say, the effect looked okay. It's passable.
Yes.
If you'd kept that in the movie, it would have been much better. I do love that the director goes and, if we make like a director's cut, I would like to make this scene and shoot it again and put it in proper CGI. And I'm like, dude, you should have just kept this. This makes the main character have like a drive and an understandable motivation for hating mages.
Yeah, and the only thing they lacked was the ghost. They could have thrown some fucking toilet paper on an actor and done it.
Which probably would have looked better than the CGI. Yes! And we also get Snails.
Classic comic relief, in my book.
He can come off as a little bit annoying, but I will give him props that he calls out Ridley.
That's the same thing you said when we robbed that little halfling's house. And who'd he catch? Me. And who'd he beat from the waist down? Me.
Like, it's even shown early.
Are you gonna jump?
You gonna catch me?
I'm gonna catch you.
Promise?
I promise. Now jump.
All right.
What happened to honor amongst thieves that he set so high? And also, Snails dies and gets like the weirdest fucking grave and gets reincarnated as a rock.
Okay.
Kinda.
Imagine you're burying your best friend. What would you do? Would you take a random rock you found, carve their name, and put it on a stack of rocks? Maybe like 20 minutes setting up the grave? Or would you buy them a proper grave? Because
Because he isn't poor at the end. You can see the change in his clothing, but you guessed it probably. He gets a shitty burial.
Yep.
At least he wasn't left in a ditch. Hashtag justice for Snails.
the fucking director, who's an idiot, decided not to take the ending where Snails is just dead and the Leave It at That really says his goodbyes, which is fine. It's
The
good.
grave still sucks, but it's fine. But then he gets reincarnated as a rock, and apparently this was something New Line Cinema wanted to do.
Yeah.
To give it a happier ending.
And the rest of the cast just wisp away in red smoke for whatever reason.
Guess they're dead.
Yeah, probably.
I hope there's a D&D nerd who goes, actually, it is this and that spell. And you're not a real D&D fan unless you don't know that. Yeah, and you have these important characters. These high and mighty characters that are supposed to command so much respect, and they're just boring. The Empress and Norda, prime examples of this. The Empress riding on a dragon doesn't seem to give a shit. Norda being surrounded by the Blood Guard or whatever doesn't seem to give a shit. I will say that behind the scenes she seems to laugh, but that might just be because she saw the armor.
Yeah, fucking titty armor. The epitome
It almost has nipples.
All hail the Titty Smith.
because the director is a fucking idiot.
There's an exception to this. All the characters that are super serious are bad. The Modra, he commands such screen presence and actually has a bit of character, but I think most of what I like about him is the blue lipstick. Your eyes are immediately drawn to that smurf-infested mouth of his. But in addition to these blue, powerful lips, there are also some other great character designs. Just sprinkled in the background, and I think they were too expensive to have in the movie, but they wanted to make these D&D references. So you have like this beetle-looking creature
Yeah.
is in the bar. The one they probably used the most is a guy credited on IMDb as Three Eyes.
He's purple.
Yeah.
He's a thief.
He is the most obvious thief I have ever seen. It's like,
Yeah.
who do we send out to just subtly pick people's pockets?
The purple guy with an eye on his forehead.
But I really like the effects of these creatures that walk around in the background, because most of the practical effects are pretty good. The fucking labyrinth rules. It's such a fun set piece of set design and
Actually dangerous.
yeah, in the behind the scenes, it's like, oh yeah, these axes that swung around, they were like they weighed tons, were made of metal and wood, and I just had to fucking dodge them as best as I could, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, he explained it as the rods and a bit of the blade was metal, and it was wood on the outside and foam on the outside of that. That's not gonna do a whole lot if it comes at you at Mach fucking 3. Because the director is a fucking idiot.
But okay, there are practical effects, but this is a 2000s movie, so they want to experiment with CGI.
It's bad. Comparative to CG of the 2000s era, it's bad.
The environment aren't so bad.
No,
But I feel it's mostly because they didn't care enough to light the CGI properly. I mean, I'm not a big stickler for when CGI is kind of bad, but I feel I should point it out in this movie because it just really clashes.
yeah, it's particularly bad in this movie. Like the dragons, Far away, they just look like a jumbled mess of pixels.
Close up, they look like clay.
Which is sort of the look they were going for, I guess. By looking at the behind the scenes.
They worked very hard with a very limited budget. For the budget, I will say...
This is a $35 million movie. It only made about 33.
And, you know, the budget doesn't really add in the marketing.
They filmed a bunch in Prague. Inside of, like, a church, a library and stuff.
Again, the set designs are great. Because they use real locations as well. Like, I will say there's a little bit of a decline when you come into the castle. The castle is a little bit boring, that infiltration, although it has a great rug.
Fucking oatmeal rug.
It's a cool trap. It's a cool effect.
Yes. It's cool practical effect.
They really loved it because they put it in the DVD as just like practical effect. Singular, and you click on it and it's just an overshot of the rug.
Yeah, I think we didn't watch everything of the behind the scenes stuff. Of that we saw, they put the trap in there 4 times. Almost as much as fucking Marini uses her magic.
Yeah, that makes me wonder because, you know, we looked at these cut scenes, a few of them. You weren't a big fan of watching them. I think you were just done with Dungeons and Dragons, the movie.
Yeah, I had
The
to
good thing is that there's so many more of them.
I had to see the movie. That should be enough. But no.
But when we watched the behind the scenes stuff, it always made the movie a little bit better. Or, you know, a little bit more, like, understandable. And it didn't cut out one of the original D&D creators who was in the background of one scene and then decided to cut it.
Yep.
And I think that's so funny. And when I imagine the production of this movie, I can totally imagine that they didn't tell the creator.
Yeah, imagine going to a movie that they say you're in, and then you watch it, and you're gone.
It's kind of like in Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, when the composer found out that Stanley Kubrick had decided to cut his music and just use the temp music instead.
That must suck.
Yeah, not as much as 2001 A Space Odyssey, but... Oh! It looks nice. It looks very nice. But it's kind of a mess. And it's very slow, and I don't care that much for it. The costumes are actually pretty great, though. The Empress costume with dragon bone looks fake no matter how you look at it. Like, I'm not sure if her costume is just bad or if it's CGI behind her. I can't tell, but I love her little jiggly crown. So final point I will say about this movie, which I think is detrimental to it, is that the politics are very confused. Okay, so in essence, it's a movie where it tries to say that equality equals good. Wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, that is the correct take to have. And hadn't it been for the fact that these are the screaming 20s, it would be pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But as things are, good of you to come out with the correct moral, I guess. But it's really bad at communicating this because, you know, when you meet the Tom Baker elf, he talks a little bit about how the elves are naturally connected to magic, which kind of makes the elves superior to other races, which I don't think was the intent of the movie to say.
No.
But it does. And also, the fucking greatest resolution to racism or mage supremacy ever is just the Empress saying, I declare equality, racism, hashtag over.
We did it, boys. We ended racism.
Yeah, by saying from now on, we're not raising. Never mind the huge benefits and advantages all the mages already have, because now it's just equal. It's a very liberal movie.
Yeah.
It's like, yay, we solved the issue by saying there's an issue. Now the issue is gone because we said so.
It's the same as deleting a shortcut on your computer. The files are still there.
It's a labor of love. It's something they made because they wanted to. Not because they should, but because they wanted to.
They sure did make it. They sure as hell shouldn't. Or at least should have continued to make it better.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious you don't like this movie.
What told you that?
I don't know, something in the air just kind of... But for my money, I think the movie is okay. Like, yeah, there are huge chunks of it that are missing. It's shoddily put together. The effects can sometimes just be terrible. The politics are just, like, fucked up.
Yeah, and
But I'm fantasy trash. I'm willing to look past a lot of issues to just watch a fun fantasy movie, and it has fun stuff in it. It has parts that I really enjoy, even though it can be really unironical, like when our main protagonist, who I can't remember the name of because I don't have the book in front of me open,
Ryder?
whatever, when he holds the scepter and is almost taken over by it, I laugh so hard because he looks ridiculous.
It looks like he has to shit. Yeah, the thing that irks me the most about this movie is from the deleted scenes, that since the director is a fucking idiot, decided to take out parts which I think were pretty crucial to this story, to binding yourself to the main character.
Yeah, I have a strong suspicion that basically every cut scene would have made the movie better, and they just cut it because they couldn't afford to make it, so they just had to cut corners and went, okay, what can we cut?
Yeah.
What can we cut? And you kind of feel that because the movie is very quick about what it is and isn't cutting, so I'm probably going to sit down and watch all the deleted scenes.
Good
just
luck.
to make sure that, you know, there isn't even more stuff that was like actually vital. It was just cut because, you know, they couldn't afford to make that. They couldn't afford to have the scroll be more CGI, even though it looks fine. It looks fine. Just
Yeah.
have like an echoey voice instead of like a specter. It would be very simple to make this movie better, but I think it's okay. It is a totally fine movie to put on and turn your brain off to. I mean, I usually, whenever I watch this, I fall asleep to it. It's great if you just need something to watch while falling asleep. Although I will say the DVD menu is very loud and repetitive. So you will have a very specific, quickly and awkwardly looping noise just invading your dream, and it will be very confusing, and you will be your brain will try to justify it until you wake up like 2 hours later and go, oh, it's the DVD menu.
What I have to say is the movie is okay. Besides the fact that the director is a fucking idiot, the actors did try seemingly their best. They didn't have the best work to work with, but they made something okay out of it. Yeah, sure, the graphics are outdated, they could have been done better, yada yada yada. But it is a movie, you can, as Andreas says, put it on in the background and just drift off. It's also fun if you're a D&D fan, because you can traumatize your other D&D fan friends. But overall, I give it a 2 out of 10. In my,
We do ratings now?
no.
Good. I don't want to think of a number, I just want to go. If you're absolute fantasy trash, this isn't as bad as you've heard it is. It's not good,
Yeah. It's
but you can have a little bit of fun with it. Also, just introducing it to your friends and being overly enthusiastic about everything is fantastic because they will look at you with new eyes, which is to say, you will lose friends real fast.
if looks could kill.
At least it is the animated Hobbit movie.